Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if we can actually change people's minds about wild conspiracy theories or if they're just set in stone? Well, this new study dives deep into that very question. This research is all about figuring out what works when we try to help people let go of some really out there beliefs, especially those that can cause harm like distrust in vaccines, or even prejudice. The big takeaway is that, yeah, interventions can help a little, but it's not a magic bullet, and some approaches are definitely better than others. So, what they did here was basically a super deep dive, a meta-analysis, which is like a study of studies. They looked at a ton of research, specifically 56 different studies that included over 270 individual tests of interventions, designed to reduce conspiracy beliefs. They gathered data from almost 28,000 people, which is a massive number. And they wanted to see not just if these interventions worked, but what made them work best. They considered everything from who was in the study, like if they were students or older adults, to how the intervention was designed, like what kind of information they presented, and even what kind of conspiracy beliefs they were trying to tackle. Now, the average effect of these interventions was pretty small. Imagine a dial that goes from 0 to 10, and the average impact was like a 1.6. So it's not a huge change across the board. But here's where it gets interesting. While the average was small, there was a whole lot of difference between how well individual interventions worked. Some worked a lot better than others. And that's what this study was trying to unpack. They wanted to quantify the overall benefit of these interventions. But more importantly, they wanted to give us a roadmap. They aimed to pinpoint the characteristics that make interventions really shine, so we can do better in the future. Before we dive into what works, let us be clear on what we were talking about. They define a conspiracy theory as a claim that people are being deliberately lied to about something important, usually by a powerful group for their own selfish and harmful reasons. And while some real conspiracies have happened throughout history, scientists are typically interested in the unfounded or really far-fetched ones because they often cause problems. They looked at all sorts of ways people tried to tackle these beliefs. One common method is straightforward fact-checking. This means directly pointing out the flaws in a specific conspiracy theory, like scrutinizing the numbers or the timeline of supposed events to show how they don't add up. They also explored other, sometimes less obvious, approaches. Some studies tried ridiculing the theories. Others showed people what most other people believed to nudge them towards a more common view. And some even played with how they asked questions to measure beliefs, which is a bit of a more subtle technique. The researchers organized their analysis around several key areas that might influence how well an intervention works. They looked at the qualities of the intervention itself, like what it was made of, the kinds of people in the study, how the study was set up, and even details about the conspiracy beliefs themselves. They borrowed ideas from research on correcting fake news too, because, hey, conspiracy theories are kind of like supercharged fake news. Now, let us get to the good stuff. What factors actually seem to make a difference? They found some really important things here. Interventions were more effective if they included fact-checking, meaning they directly addressed and debunked specific conspiracy claims. Also, it really helped if the intervention talked about the same conspiracy beliefs that they were measuring. So, if they were trying to reduce beliefs about vaccine conspiracies, the intervention should talk about vaccines, not, say, alien invasions. Providing alternative explanations for events also seemed to boost effectiveness, though there was a bit more uncertainty around that specific finding. When it came to the people involved, they noticed that interventions tended to work a bit better with students. This could be because they were often more open to new information or critical thinking at that stage of life. Interestingly, if the comparison group in a study was something that actually supported a conspiracy theory, then the intervention aimed at reducing that belief seemed to have a slightly stronger effect. It's like the contrast made the intervention stand out more. Here as a couple more key findings. It seems that if researchers used more questions to measure conspiracy beliefs, the interventions tended to show larger effects also. And this might seem counterintuitive. Interventions were more effective when people started with higher levels of conspiracy beliefs. This implies that those who are already deep into these beliefs might be more receptive to efforts to sway them, perhaps because they are actively seeking explanation. Now, no study is perfect, and the researchers here were really thorough in checking for potential biases. They looked for things like publication bias, which is when studies with exciting results are more likely to get published, making the overall picture look rosier than it might be. They used the tool called RUB2 to assess the quality of the studies. What they found was that while most of the studies included had a high risk of bias, this didn't really change how effective the interventions were in terms of the detected effect size. This is a bit of a mixed bag. It suggests that even with less than perfect study designs, we can still learn something. But it also flags a major area for improvement in future research. This is a really important point. The fact that almost all the studies they looked at were rated as being at high risk of bias means that we need to be a bit cautious when interpreting the results. It doesn't invalidate the findings entirely, but it definitely highlights the need for more rigorous research designs going forward. So, what does all this mean for us? The study points to several key factors that can make interventions more effective. Targeting younger people, especially students, seems to be a good bet, as they might be more open to changing their minds. Fact-checking specific conspiracy claims is a solid strategy. When you can point to concrete evidence and flawed logic within a conspiracy theory, you have a better chance of making a dent. Another practical tip is to avoid overly simple ways of measuring conspiracy beliefs. Using measures with just one question might not give us the full picture and could even lead us to underestimate how well an intervention is working. Using more comprehensive questionnaires is better. But, as with any research, there are still many questions left unanswered. For example, we don't fully understand the long-term effects of these interventions. Does the belief reduction stick around or does it fade away over time? A big issue they identified is that many studies are underpowered. This means they don't have enough participants to reliably detect a small effect, which is what we often see with interventions. Future research needs to be designed with larger sample sizes or innovative multi-lab studies to get clearer answers. They also emphasize the importance of transparency. Researchers need to make their data and findings available, even if the results aren't as exciting as they hoped, so that future research and meta-analyses can get a more accurate picture. And that lack of long-term research is a major gap. We really need to know if these interventions have lasting impacts. Are people permanently swayed, or do they revert back to their old beliefs? This is crucial for understanding the true value of any intervention. Looking ahead, the field is exploring new frontiers, like using AI to talk to people and tailor the conversation to their individual needs and beliefs. This sounds pretty futuristic, but early results suggest it could be quite effective, potentially even more so than traditional methods. It's fascinating to think about how technology might help us understand and even change minds. So, to wrap it all up, this study gives us a good look at what makes interventions against conspiracy beliefs tick. While the overall impact might be modest, there are clear strategies that can boost effectiveness. Fact-checking, tailoring content, and using better measurement tools are all important. The research also points out big areas for improvement, like the need for more rigorous study designs and a focus on long-term effects. It's a complex problem, but understanding these nuances is key to building better ways to help people navigate a world full of information, and sometimes outright misinformation. What do you all think about these findings? Are you surprised by anything? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science made simple. Thanks for watching.